Hi everybody, I hope you're all well. It's been a while since I made a video, just been busy with work, kids and that sort of thing. This video came about because I was doing a job a couple of days ago for a very nice old chap. He's been a customer for years. He said his neighbour had asked him if he wanted to buy a second-hand chainsaw. My customer said to me, well, no, I didn't, because I wouldn't know what to do with it anyway. But then he also said, but I didn't know if it was worth the money he was asking. And then he said to me, how do you know if a second-hand chainsaw is any good? Well, it was a difficult question to answer because there's a lot involved. What you think you need to look for, you generally don't need to look for. And what you don't think to look for is precisely the thing that you do look for. So this video is basically about what I, as a professional user, would look for if I was buying a second-hand chainsaw. And as an example, I am going to use the trusty 230, the Stihl 230. This saw has been with me since day one. I use it loads, I abuse it loads, I maintain it, but I don't really clean it. So the question is, if somebody came to you with this saw and you knew nothing about it, would you buy it? Should you buy it? What should you look for to give you the answer to those questions? Okay, so the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to completely disregard the external condition of the saw. I mean, this saw here, I was using it yesterday for hours. It's absolutely filthy, and as the years go by, you will find that saws just get dirty. They get scruffy in places that you really can't get into clean, so you just stop cleaning them in there. So don't worry about that. The first thing I would ask any prospective chainsaw seller, I'm just going to leave that lying there now, is I'm going to ask them about the fuel. And I'm going to ask them how often they use that saw. If they use the saw a lot, then the fuel will not get a chance to go off. Even if they are using the saw a lot, then I'm going to expect that they are using something like this, a fuel stabilizer. They should be able to show you this. I'm also going to ask about the bar oil that they use, or the chain oil, if you like. I don't want to see any cheapo stuff off eBay. I want to see some decent quality stuff. They should be able to show you manufacturer's brand. This stuff is designed to work with Stihls, so if you've got a Stihl chainsaw, you're expecting them to spend the money on buying proper manufacturer's oil to go in it. The other thing I'd expect to see is that they're using a good quality two-stroke oil. You don't want to see any rubbish that they bought from their local filling station. That's the first set of clues. The next thing I'm going to look at, if the thing's not been used for a while, you tend to find that home users in particularly don't go through a lot of chains and they don't buy a lot of chains, so they'll keep the same chain going. Now, I can actually look at a chain and I can tell if that chain has been maintained, if it's been sharpened. I would ask about filing rakers down. I would ask about cutting angles. I would ask them, oh, that's a semi-chisel or a full chisel chain. And if they know the answers to those questions, if they know what those things are, then the chances are they know enough to actually, again, it's a clue to maintain the saw properly. Now we're going to start dismantling the saw. They should be able to do this for you if they know what they're doing. If they don't know what they're doing, well, let's see how panicky they get when you start doing it. Okay, so first thing we're going to do, let's get the cover off. Right. This saw is absolutely filthy. Now you might look at the general condition of this saw and think, oh, no, this has not been well maintained. Well, you can ignore the appearance of a saw. So you have, for instance, your sprocket cover. This was used yesterday. I haven't cleaned it. There's a clue there that's very oily. That means that the bar oil is probably working properly. You would expect somebody to actually clean this before I'm showing it to you. But I'm actually showing you this saw in its worst, filthiest state, just to illustrate the fact that don't be put off by a filthy saw. So if you don't like the fact that this is all covered in gunk and muck and rubbish, you can replace this. This is not a problem. Let's take the bar and the chain off. Okay, the chain, well, you can replace the chain. Let's have a look at the bar. Okay, the bar doesn't look so hot. Has it been filed? Do you have a lip there? If you have a lip there, then it means they haven't really been maintaining the bar very well. If you don't have a lip there, it means they have been maintaining the bar. You can feel the lip. You can't see it, but you can feel it. It's a sharp, turned over edge. I would get your measure. I'm going to pause this while I go and get mine. As if by magic, he reappears with his measure. This bit, can you see that? You can't really focus in on that very well. Okay, that bit there. Oh, come on, focus, 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 focus. Oh, you can't really see that, but this part here of your sharpening guide, this is actually graduated. Oh, let's bring it in slowly. There you can see. Aha, there. See that? That's actually graduated in millimeters. Now each bar will have printed on it, or it will have in the user's manual, the depth below which that bar is no longer any good to use, and it will tell you what it will be. It'll be 3, 4, 5 millimeters. The reason that's important is because the drive links on the chain, once the bar actually wears down enough, those drive links will begin to scrape along the bottom of the guide rails in the bar, and that wrecks your chain. Now you could actually have a look on the chain, and you can see if this has been happening. It's not happened on this chain. You can see the wear marks on the bottom of the drive links, if that's actually been happening. You would not expect somebody to still be using, this is how you do it. There you go, like that. You would not expect, you know, on this one, I think it's 5 millimeters I've got to play with. That is 6, so this bar is okay. And remember, when you dress your bar, you're actually filing it to get it smooth, and then you're taking the flip over edges off. So every time you dress your bar, it gets a little narrower. This bar is actually okay to continue using. Even so, if I didn't like the look of it, bars you can replace. So no, a poor condition bar would not necessarily stop me buying a chainsaw. Let's get to the actual saw itself. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to have a look at the, and we go, try and do this left-handed. There we are. Next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to have a look at the air filter. Has the air filter been kept clean? If the air filter has been kept clean, then it tells you that this guy woman has been looking after the saw. If there are any holes in the air filter, that's a red flag, because it means that any old rubbish has been getting sucked into the carburetor. This is scruffy, but it's intact. The next thing I'm going to do, and I'm not going to do it on this saw, but I am going to, let's see if I can get it this way. If I'm going to look at spending a fair bit of money on a saw, I'm going to remove this, and I'm going to have a look into the carburetor with a torch. And what I'm looking for are brown, gummy, varnishy deposits. That tells me that there's been stale fuel sitting in the saw for a long time. That's not necessarily a deal breaker, but you're probably going to have to replace the carburetor to get rid of all that rubbish. Even using something like carburetor cleaner will not really shift that. Once it gets into where the needles are, the saw's done for, really, or the carburetor's done for. But again, carburetors are not that expensive. So yeah, again, that's not a deal breaker for me. I'm going to put this back on because I don't want any rubbish getting in. Oh, let's have a look at this. I'm going to make sure this is yeah, that's off. This would have started otherwise. I'm going to check that the pull cord is actually in a decent condition. And it is. You heard the saw kick over there. The spark plug. Now, what would you ordinarily do? You would pull the spark plug and you would have a look at the condition of the spark plug. You do not need to do that, and I'll tell you why. If the spark plug is running rich, or if it's running hot, then you can change that via the adjustment settings on the actual saw. You don't need to, it's in there, you don't need to worry about that. Nor do you need to check if the spark plug is actually producing a good spark by pulling the spark plug, earthing it against the body and turning it over. Nor do you need to actually test the spark plug, because if it doesn't produce a good spark, then the saw will not run. Now, it might just be a dodgy spark plug, it might be a dodgy lead, it might be a dodgy stator. In either case, they're not really worth fixing, so that's a red flag. By and large, I would not pull a spark plug and look and check the condition of the spark plug. Next thing I'm going to look at, condition of the sprocket. If the actual sprocket itself is worn, that tells me that this has not been well looked after. This socket is quite worn actually. I probably need to replace that. Have a look. Can you see? Can we see? Can we see? Can we see? Let's have a look. There we go. That is what a worn sprocket looks like. Yeah, I've got another one. I will replace this. Next thing I'm going to look at is the tensioning adjusting system. That should work. You should be able to see that moving in. You should be able to see that moving out. If this is very loose, then it means that the worm drive gear behind here, that's broken. They can be a real pain to actually try and repair. So if the tensioning system's loose, again, that's a red flag. I would just walk away. At this point, what you would do is you'd look to start the saw. It doesn't matter whether you're starting the saw hot or you're starting the saw cold. One of the things people will say is, don't let the seller start the saw before you've arrived, make sure it's cold, start it from cold. A saw should be able to start from hot or cold, so it makes zero difference. But what you need to do, start the saw like this, rev it up like crazy. I'm actually in a closed workshop now, so I'm not going to start the saw. Rev it up like crazy, and you should see the bar oil coming out here. You should actually see the bar oil running out. If the bar oil runs out, then it tells you that the oiler is working properly. Oilers are a real pain to fix. If the oiler is not working properly, then again it's a red flag. You need to be walking away from this saw. Now we get into the soft underbelly of chainsaw assessment. This is something that professional users will know, but amateur users will not. And we're going to go to the exhaust system. Now on every saw, this is really, really important to understand this. On every saw, you have a hot side and a cold side. The cold side is the carburetor side. The cold air is sucked in. The piston is colder on that side than it is on the exhaust side. On the exhaust side, obviously the exhaust gases come out. That side the piston is hot. So what we're going to do first is take the exhaust off. Now I don't mind if the exhaust's rusty. If it's loose it's a problem, but I don't mind if it's rusty because you can replace exhaust systems. They're not expensive. They are a sacrificial part. They do corrode. Okay, so let's get this exhaust off. So off comes the exhaust. Doesn't matter to me if it's rusty, I can replace that. They're very simple things. I do want to check that the exhaust gasket is still in place, but what I'm going to do now, and this is tricky, let's see if we can show this. I'm going to have to pick the camera up and move it. Now can you see in there, there we are, that white thing, that is the piston. I'll tell you what I want to do actually. I'm going to make this easier. Take that out. Take that out. There, you can see the piston there. Now it's starting to move up. What I'm going to look for here is signs of scoring. If I can see scoring on that piston, then it means that this saw has been run too lean and too hot. It also means that the air filter has not been working properly. There's been rubbish making its way into the system. Now you can see some lines on this piston. Let's break another rule. Put my finger in and I feel it. That's smooth as anything. The lines are just visual artifacts. They're not actually scores. That is the thing that I will always go to when I'm looking to buy a second-hand saw. This is the bit I always want to get to. I want to get the exhaust off and I want to look at the hot side of the piston. If that piston looks fine, then this saw is good. Everything else can be replaced. The question then becomes one of how much time or inclination do you have to actually do the work. Let's put this back together. Nuts back on. Incidentally, you don't lubricate these nuts. This gets very hot, so you don't put oil or anything on. You don't want anything catching fire. I think I mentioned before, one thing I would check is that the exhaust hasn't worked its way loose. Good maintenance is always checking your exhaust. They do work their way loose, and if they work their way loose, then they can let all sorts of rubbish into the piston assembly, which you don't really want. Final thing is check the condition of the clutch. Let's see if I can do this without. There we go. Let's keep them in the correct order. That's the sprocket. Yeah, there's wear there, but it's not too bad. I will replace this. Bit of gunk in there. You can clean that out. Now we're having a look at the actual sprocket itself. It's fine. The needle bearing, not a problem. The replaceable parts. I'll often take a sprocket off and find that this is sort of disintegrated. What you can do, although it's going to totally freak out the seller, is you can start the saw at this point, you can rev it up and you'll see that clutch flying out. But you don't need to do that. Test whether the clutch works, because you'll know the clutch works because it engages the chain drive when you're actually testing it. Right, so that's it. This was just a quick video I thought I'd put together because I'm in here today tidying stuff up, avoiding having to go shopping with my wife. I think that's her car just starting up there now. My mission has been successful. There we go. Useful trick for you. When you're putting your sprinklers back on, use your sparky wrench to do it, then it won't go flying everywhere. Now I think that is about everything that I would look at if I was buying a saw. So really, what you're doing is you're dispensing with all of the non-essential, the user changeable parts, and you're basically looking at the guts of the saw, which is the piston assembly. If that piston assembly is okay, then I think the saw is good to go. This saw now, how much would I pay for it? If this saw now new, how much are they? For the sake of argument, let's say they are 300 Spondulix new. How much would I give you for this? Me knowing what I know about saws, I'd give you 60 for it, because I'd be replacing bits and pieces. And it's still a perfectly good saw. It still works perfectly well. So there we go. Don't be blinded by appearances. Don't look for the things that everybody says that you should look for. Look for the non-obvious things. In particular, you look for that scoring on the piston. Okie dokie. Thanks for watching. If you're buying a second-hand saw, remember, listen to your inner voice. If in doubt, walk away. Thank you very much. I shall catch you next time.